probably some of you may be wondering, what does a Chief Customer Officer in an Insurtech company do? So in short, my role is all about ensuring that, yeah. Oh my God! Did you hear Siri, speaking of bots? So my role is all about ensuring that whatever we build at Earnix translates into value to you, your customers, and more importantly, your businesses. We believe that at Earnix, we have a good understanding of your challenge navigating, delivering innovation at a high speed, and at the same time, staying compliant, keeping a customer experience in the center. And this fine balance is the theme of our session today. I divided the session into two parts. In the first one, I'll introduce the concept, share my experience, and hopefully give you some practical tips how to do it. And in the second part, we'll hear from Constantina Panayidou. Eris presented her, and Constantina will share her experience, how she is managing this challenge in the market while leading a pricing function, a pricing team. And by the end of the session, I'll hope you'll walk away inspired to continue and innovate while staying compliant. So let's start. Very often when we make decisions, we need to make them at a very high pace. Speed is key. And speed is actually a great thing. Think about it. It helps us to create impact, and it helps us to innovate and keep the team energized and accelerate momentum. But this is true only if risk is properly scoped. Let's take, for example, an insurer that wants to swiftly respond to market dynamics and introduce a new pricing model to capture market value. So the initial results may be very impressive, but if the model is not vetted for fairness, auditability, explainability, two things can happen. Customers may lose trust because of inconsistency, and the regulator may step in. Another example from the claims space. Many companies are now using AI in claims triage. It helps to reduce operational cost and obviously enhance customer experience. However, faster claims decisions may have a negative impact on loss ratios. However, if we think too much about caution, if we stay cautious, innovation may stop. So let's take another example when it comes to governance around pricing models. Everything that has to do with audit trails and manual approvals and long approval cycles. They will for sure protect us from model inaccuracies, and they will help us to stay more compliant. But if we are stuck in these loops forever, it may slow us down. So as we say, caution is vital, but there is also a cost for delays, or we call it at Earnix, the cost of doing nothing. And the AI revolution is increasing the tension between moving fast and staying safe. The thing is, and we heard about it in the past few days, that AI is no longer a distant feature. It is the environment we operate in. It moved from the edges to how industries are operating. And AI, we heard about it, is everywhere, in smarter pricing, in faster claims, in fraud alerts, and I'm sure many of us are already using, I don't know, chatbots. But the thing is, and this is similar to other revolutions. You probably remember the e-commerce revolution from the beginning of the century. AI is now part of customer expectations. So customer expectations across the entire customer journey. Customers are now expecting customized products, a faster communication, all based on latest, almost near real-time data. So the AI revolution and the speed of events it is creating is putting the speed versus caution dilemma at the center of every manager's priorities, and it is creating a tension between, again, moving fast and staying safe. Every manager now needs to balance between agility and speed in their decision-making processes. And the thing is that leadership is not choosing one or the other, but it is knowing when to pivot between one of the other. Now, the answer may seem simple, right? When you have a huge opportunity, you choose agility. And when there is a risk, stay cautious and stick to regulatory guidelines. But very often, reality is different, and reality bites. And this is because regulation is very often trailing behind, or in other words, innovation outpaces regulation. And this is, again, this is nature. Let's take, for example, the European AI Act. How many of you heard about the Act? Now, it was introduced in August of 2024, but many of the provisions of the Act are still unknown and will be only released in the future. This Act applies only to Europe, not even to the UK, and I'm not even mentioning the United States. I don't know how many of you listened yesterday to CSAA, one of our customers. They even raised a higher complexity because in America, they are dealing with different regulatory flavors in the 50 or 50, if you consider DC, 51 states. So regulation is behind, and many managers need to make decisions with a lot of uncertainties in gray zones. So in the day-to-day, this tension between customer value, innovation, and compliance is something that I experience in what I call the tension triangle. The tension triangle is a sort of an approach that I'd like to offer to describe these conflicting forces. On one hand, we have innovation versus compliance. And this is the classic, I want to do it with AI versus am I allowed to do it? And then we have customer value versus compliance. Hey, I want to protect my customer against misuse, but on the other hand, I want to keep a good customer experience. And finally, we have innovation versus customer value. Is this really bringing value to customers, or is it just a cool tech, right? So this push-pull relationship are coming on top of the issues that each element of this triangle already brings to our day-to-day work. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this. Let's take legacy systems limitation. We want to use telematics data, but the backend cannot host the data. Let's go with customer trust that may have an impact on customer value and creates slow onboarding and adoption processes of new tools and new features that we would like to offer. And finally, and we're all aware of it, the massive investment that is required from many organizations to develop governance tools and stay compliant. And I know it because at Earnix we are ongoing investing in SOC 2 processes, adding a variety of ISO standards, and very recently we added a whole ESG program to ensure not that we comply with regulation, but that we comply with a lot of customer requirements and customer standards. So after telling you all about the challenge, and I'm sure you're familiar with many of the things that I've mentioned here, I'd like to offer an approach that helps me to cope with this imbalance or with these push-pull forces in my day-to-day work. An approach that really helps me to make decisions. I realized that this tension will not go away. It is here to stay. And I don't have the option not to continue and push forward and not to continue and transform the business and innovate. Very often I find myself at the middle of this triangle, and I embraced the mindset that leadership is about managing these three forces productively. I cannot say, okay, let's release a new feature or a new process and ignore the regulatory requirements. And I cannot do the same with the customer value. So what do I do? When I think and I need to make a decision, I try to change the composition of each component relevant to the decision we're trying to make. And this helps me to move forward and to continue and push my teams to come with new ideas and to serve our customers. So mindset is one thing, and a nice model and a nice approach is also a nice thing. But I'd like to offer two more practical themes, two guidelines and tips that we are using at Earnix. The first one is what we call compliance by design. Our idea is to ship compliance out of the box. So what we did, we moved away from treating compliance as a necessary evil to increasing awareness at the very beginning of every initiative. We bring SMEs and experts to the room, whether it is our legal teams, our chief information security officer, and they sit together with product managers and with engineers and teaching each other and learning from each other. On one hand, what are the customer requirements, or what is the cool tech we want to push to the market? And on the other hand, what is the regulatory requirements? And you would be surprised when this principle is introduced early, in an early stage, and there is no deadline that is pushing us. There is a lot of creativity and a lot of very productive brainstorming between the teams. And the second principle, just before I call Constantina to the stage, is what we call follow a purposeful innovation. We have many teams that on an ongoing basis converse and talk to customers, customer success managers and professional services, and obviously product managers and engineers. We make sure that we focus on prioritize the feedback that they share with us. So not just delivering a cool tech, but delivering a feature or content that will bring value to customers. So with that, I'd like to call Constantina to the stage. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Constantina. And I want to take the opportunity and ask Constantina a few questions. And I'll start with a very basic one, Constantina.
Yeah.
How do you balance innovation in pricing with regulatory requirements?
So that's actually quite an interesting question because it's quite of a challenge, and the answer is something that everyone mentioned, you mentioned as well. So what we try to do is that we treat compliance as an enabler rather than a gatekeeper. What this means in practice is that when we use AI for risk scoring, we involve compliance right from the start. So all regulatory constraints, explainability, which is what we talked about before, fairness, everything is built into the process and not just checked at the end. What this means is that actually compliance sits with us at the design phase as a partner, and they're not treated as a reviewer who just come in at final sign-off. On top of that, we build and maintain monitoring dashboards. These provide clear insights into how decisions are made. This reassures our stakeholders that all considerations have been addressed, and that information is available if they need to have it. The result is definitely faster time to market, avoidance of costly rework, and definitely stronger trust with the regulator, but also with business partners and customers who know that our processes are actually innovative and robust.
So I don't know if you've noticed the similarities. We're an Insurtech company, and Constantina is the leader of a pricing team, and there are a lot of similarities. So now, with that, I'd like to ask you, what is the strategy that you're using managing the trade-off between fast delivery and long-term pricing innovation?
So we essentially try to take a modular approach to innovation by breaking down large goals into smaller, more manageable steps. We guarantee that actually we deliver improvements quickly while still moving towards a more advanced future state. This actually helps us achieve short-term wins, which build confidence, which build trust, while we still evolve our overall pricing sophistication. We stay agile, we stay responsive, and we definitely don't lose sight of our long-term goals. So I would say that the result is really innovation that is both pragmatic and forward-looking.
And your pricing innovation, how do you collect customer value? How do you know, because after all, you are an insurance company, so how do you ensure they deliver value to customers?
So that's a challenge as well, I would say. So as an actuary, when we assess pricing changes, we try to assess everything not only from a technical point, but also from a customer perspective. So this is what helps us balance the analytical sophistication we are after with customer centricity. In practice, what we want to ensure is that all our pricing quotes translate into relevant, personalized offers, which is key in today's highly competitive environment, while we want to make sure that they're still fair and transparent. How do we make sure we do that is that we actually work closely with sales and marketing, not in silo. We try to track key indicators such as customer satisfaction, retention, and we seek feedback on whether our innovations actually reflect those customers' perspectives. So in the end, I believe the result is that we help drive business growth, but also customer loyalty.
Yeah, I don't know if we have time, but I would be interested in understanding how do you collect feedback if all of but maybe for next year. So if we look ahead, and you're looking at your role, and this is a bit of a visionary question, what role pricing teams will play in the future? Let's say in 10 years, or maybe let me ask it differently. How will success will look like for pricing teams in 10 years?
So definitely, and AI won't make actuaries disappear. That's what I think. So
you all heard that?
So as the AI becomes embedded in the insurance industry, I believe that pricing teams will evolve. They will turn into, from being seen to just specialist analysts to key strategic advisors. So AI will automate much of the heavy analysis, and this will free up the time for teams to actually work more on scenario modeling, on strategic decision making, and in actually making sure that their pricing innovations deliver the customer value we talked about before. So you also asked what success would be like. For me, success will be when pricing teams will no longer be considered analysts who are focused on a technical outcome, and when pricing actually gets recognized as a trusted reflection of value and fairness. So I think that's what success looks like for me.
Thank you very much, Constantina. I have many more questions here, but we don't have time. I hope we gave you some ideas and at least reduced the concern and gave some vision that it is possible to innovate, transform your organization, and stay compliant.